or ex-Barnwell property. So, is there anybody who'd like to give their experience, share their experiences with tonight's meeting?
Happy to start it.
We want do you need a microphone?
No, don't need a microphone. Okay, I've got to admit, we are literally on the boundary there, over our fence. Now, for a long, long time, I've got to be honest, I cannot see the property, but I can hear what's going on. And for a very long time, basically for 12 hours a day, 7 days a week, for months and months on end, I could hear the heavy machinery operating. I kept saying to people around me, it doesn't stack up. Cannot possibly stack up for a grazing property or a so-called avocado. We'll plant the avocado while it's happening. Didn't possibly stack up. Anyhow, that proceeded, still didn't stack up. Several times I contacted Kathy. I said, what is going on in this property? There's no way in the world it can possibly be what they state it's going to be. Subsequently, I don't know how many months down the track, I was contacted by a neighbour further down the road who said to me, Cheryl, do you know about the dam on the property? Again, I repeat, cannot see it, but anyhow. So I went with this neighbour down the road. They were very concerned. Should this dam build? He told me it was one mother of a dam, there's an F in there, and that should it break, there was going to be major problems further down. The dam apparently had not been constructed with any oversight, any permit, any engineering, with neither an experienced operator. So the whole thing was, go for it while it was happening. Particularly it was out of sight, nobody could see it. Anyhow, several of us got together, went and had a look at this mother of a dam, and believe me, it really was. So anyhow, contacting council, yes, I did contact council. Nobody knew about it, didn't know about it. It was well hidden, it was all happening, and I suppose it was on the basis that it was going to be, we'll do it and we'll ask for forgiveness later, should it ever be found. So anyhow, contacted council, and of course, speaking to some of the other residents down there who were extremely worried about, there is some houses further down from the face of the dam that should it ever burst, they're gone. And we've seen over many years here some of these houses down there who literally, under big, big floods, are underwater. So it's right up to their veranda, some very high places. Anyhow, the council did subsequently get off their butt. They weren't going to. I sort of told them that I was recording it and I would hold them legally responsible should anything eventuate down the track. Council did get off their butt and went from there. Let me tell you, where it's gone to from there, I don't know. However, let me tell you, the machinery hasn't stopped. It continues to operate. It doesn't sound to be quite as heavy. It never stops. So I'll leave it at that. That's some of the starting information. It goes, yeah.
John wants this policy.
Go, John.
My problem is where we live. Access to my property is in a little lane.
Can everybody hear?
Yeah.
Good.
It's in a little lane called Barnwell Lane. Now, a lot of you have probably driven past it many times going out Mile Road, but maybe you don't know we live there. We've lived there for 40 years. And what happens, where that Barnwell Lane goes is just before this proposed roundabout, which you may have seen on the maps, which I would imagine would cause considerable damage to the intersection with the Cowman Park Road, Road. It would probably have to swing round over the top of where I now access my property. And that Barnwell Lane also swings through my property, goes behind the old Robin Dodds property. So the Dodds family is also very worried about this lane being developed. The maximum width is about 8 metres, so I would imagine that a lane to take the number of people we're talking about, which would probably involve buses and trucks and stuff else, would be probably 20-30 metres wide. That would involve knocking down considerable rainforest between my place and Dodds' place. The road, where we turn off the road, it drops straight down about 10 feet, goes flat then, and then up past my house, comes up a hill probably for another 10 feet. So you're looking at a considerable amount of earthworks involved there, and then round the back of Dodds' place, and I don't know who else after that would be affected by that. Now, the way we see it, our house will become unlivable. because we would be about 8-10 metres from that road. We would have to erect a wooden fence of about 12 metres or something like that, very private, lots of houses have contained a lot of glass. It would completely ruin our lifestyle, and apart from that, the house would become unsellable and not worth a cent. So our kids would inherit nothing. I'm an old man, and as is my wife, we may not live to see the end of the project, but I think it's unfortunate.
Okay, would you like to share it?
Yeah, look, I've got a few things that are not necessarily directly connected, and some of it might be hysterical or historical. I built a place at the end of Kingfisher Drive a good long time ago, and in buying the land from John Anthony, we were advised that the 30-metre allowance for Kingfisher Drive was designed to allow a connection directly to the Fallon Road intersection. The idea being that all the increase in traffic which might come down the Oak Forest Road would not have to go around the loop with the school on it, but travel straight through just 1 kilometre with a decent sort of bridge across the creek, and would end up at the Fallon Road intersection. Now that may or may not be true. It does seem it has some logic in terms of traffic and density, because using the loop as it presently exists isn't viable. Quite recently, survey work was conducted from the bridge up into the Myola settled area with a view to widening that road. For what purpose? The man who was doing the surveyor who was working on it didn't know. I don't know that it's connected with this, but it may be. Anyway, that's the idea of that road being made the width it is in order to allow a connection across that piece of country, maybe just a pocketful. I don't know. I've heard that it's never been confirmed by anybody in council, but the people who owned the land through which it went, who actually paid for the road, said that was the purpose. I'll leave you with that.
Thanks for sharing it with us. Somebody else like to give their report?
I live on Barnwell Road, and yes, for the last X amount of months, there's been truck and the double trucks going in the whole time, cattle trucks going in and out the whole time. But by the looks of the plan, there is no cattle going to be on this new thing. So this was just a little bit of a, let's sugar them up a little bit with a few cattle. We're only going to put cattle here and everything. Well, they came in, they put a load of cattle in there, and we thought to ourselves, this is too much for that ground, because we know it's not beautiful grass there. But apparently they had some friends over from China, which they run in and out with a helicopter all the time. So I don't know whether these rich people are going to go on a first-class plane and then drive up the range and be caught for 3 hours with no toilet facilities or anything else. They're going to probably be helicoptered in as well. But I do know that some of the men that have worked from here on the jobs are loving it, because they're getting paid through the nose and a trip to Macau. But they're not going to give everybody that. Also, as Bob said, big construction companies are going to come to do this, or we have a free trade agreement with China. They'll bring them over from China, because I can't see them paying a plumber or electrician $120 an hour, as we have to pay them, or a bricklayer. I don't know how much we pay a bricklayer per brick, but I bet they're not going to pay a Chinese person that amount of money. Also, if they are in cahoots with Aquarius, there is no reason for them not to bring people, Chinese people, over to build that and house them in this place where nobody sees them come and go.
That's it, Mark?
Thank you. Jeff de Koven, would you like to give your report to us? Jeff van de Koven?
I live again KUR-World Road, and I've been there for probably 36 years now, and I've seen growth come back. Great amount of variety of wildlife. Since the clearing started, I've had basically herds of wallabies into my property. They access the small clearing that I've got. I've heard bird life that I've never heard. I've had possums, that are dry country possums in there. So it makes you wonder, you know, displaced wildlife, where does it go? You know, there's only a certain area that they can occupy until it reaches an overload point where can it crash because there's too much demand. The clearing, as other people have mentioned, we've heard machinery run for weeks, day and night. Huge windrows put in and just burnt. Like we had a period for about 3 weeks where you could walk outside at midnight and all you'd see is a big glow in the sky, smoke, smoke residues. When there's, if I can smell that, I'm basically over the road from their, what they call paradise area, which is supposedly the green area that they're going to leave. If I can smell that, you know, the natural reaction of wildlife, and that's not only things that walk, but crawl, fly, they smell smoke, they're off, you know, I mean, it's just a natural movement for it. There's just so many things like unanswered as traffic, sewerage, who fronts the cost? We, ratepayers in the area, are we going to be billed for part of this? Things like emergency services. If you put that many people out there, our local fire brigade would need to become full-time. You know, we would end up having a population higher than the town area of Mareeba. Well, they have ambulance. Okay, we've got a good ambulance service, provided, I might add, by all the residents who contributed to put the SES and the ambulance here. But fire brigade, it all comes out of the taxpayers' money somewhere. We're local, under Mareeba Council, or as a state government initiative. And it just seems to be no great amount of planning that's been explained to anyone. They've just gone ahead and gone. Old Bill Barnwell, that had the property and worked cattle there for many years, I knew vaguely, because I used to fix the fence and put his cattle back over. And that was in an area of forestry lease. The forestry number on the lease was 181. And he used to move his cattle up and down continuously because the whole area that was cleared couldn't support large heads of cattle. And that has been alluded to already. The show cows were moved in, lots of nice video and promo, trucked out. There are no cows there anymore, so the whole premise that he's going to put a number of herds in there, or a single herd, who knows what his breeding, what his aspirations are, it just can't carry lots of cattle, and it never has traditionally.
Do you know how many?
The old cattle family.
Do you know how many head the barn was used to run?
Maybe 100 at the most. But that was very seasonal. That was a come and go situation. And cattle are always on the move, but you couldn't put a huge cattle emporium out there. It's not the type of carrying country, even with improved pastures, water. Cattle require water, and they'll walk all over the place looking for it. It's just normal for cattle, but I don't see it as a viable. And he's got an illusion that there was going to be a big avocado orchard in there. Look around Kuranda, there are none. People have home trees, but they don't have orchards for the simple reason it's not the country for it. Go over the bump to Mareeba, find lots there. Yeah. So, like pie in the sky material.
I like to say
Fine. We've got an opportunity for one more.
I totally agree with the gentleman what he just said, and I actually live a couple blocks from this proposed development, and I have seen this before with Cheryl. We have been fighting council with the so-called innocent retirement settlement village, which ended up being another basically Kuranda village center, because the council doesn't tell you everything, you see. And when I look at that map, that how they conveniently drew around the endangered species so to satisfy us, so we remain calm and comfortable. I don't believe for a second that they would not just clear the whole lot, build it all up, make it really dense. It actually terrifies me, because I want my daughter to remain and possibly have her family here. And when I see this and all these slides that always come with the glossy brochures and all nice and, you know, it's horrible, actually. It is horrible. And I've done this before, like I said. It took us possibly 6 years. And I was calm and thinking, okay, well, we will remain in a green tropical environment. And here we are again. It's just, it's a nightmare. Thank you.
One more speaker.
Yeah, I just had more of a question, Bob. I was just thinking, if they've already submitted an IAS, would that not have supposed to have detailed all those things about road easements and access and all that sort of stuff? If it hasn't, then why is it even allowed to get contemplated? That's basically the question. If there's such a lacking of detail, why can't we just demand from the state politicians that this is just ridiculous? Why?
Kathy's prepared for just the point you raised.
Maybe I can explain. The process that this proposal has gone through is that it's been submitted to the State Coordinator General's office, and that's the initial advice statement that they actually sent in, saying, basically outlining their concept. And you can see there's a blue folder over here. You can flick through it. It's about 130 pages long.
We've seen it online.
Yes, seen it online. Now that's just the first stage in a process. If they hadn't done that, they would have had to go around all the government departments, the State Department of Environment and Heritage, then they would have needed to go to the DNR, which is the Natural Resources people. They would have had to go to the federal government. This is the reason why the frog is so important here, because it brings the federal government in. They administer an act, Environmental Protection and Biodiversity Control Act. So instead of, and then they would have to go to the council, and there's a couple of other places they would have had to go as well. So instead of them having to run around and coordinate all that, the state government has accepted that the state government will now coordinate all this. So it's a real advantage to them to have had this approved through the state coordinator.
But it doesn't actually meet their requirements, because...
But it's just the first stage. What they have to do now is they need to write an environmental impact statement. They need to describe how they're going to manage all of the effects of, and how they're going to supply the water, what they're going to do with the sewage, how they're going to deal with the roads. They're going to have to put all of that into the environmental impact statement. They're going to have to deal with the social impacts in our town. They're going to have to deal with the economic impacts as well of the whole area. And they're going to have to actually support it with some economic study. They're going to have to support what they're going to do with studies by botanists and people who've done fauna surveys. They're going to have to do and spend a lot of money. They're probably going to have to spend a couple of million doing it.
Kathy, is that the same state government that approves the Darling Vine?
The state government gets to write a recommendation report. First of all, we are able to submit on the terms of reference for the EIS, Environmental Impact Statement. That's going to come out probably very shortly, maybe even next week. We'll have 20 days to submit on that. That'll go back to the state government, so I definitely would advise everybody to keep up to speed, and we'll certainly be emailing out information about how to respond to those draft terms of reference. The state government will then look at them, form what they believe the terms of reference should be. They'll send it to the federal government. They will look at it and make sure that it's covering all the things that they're concerned about. So in particular it will be cassowary, frog and all the other endangered species that there are, voles, etc. on that block. And then it will be signed off by the federal government and then again by the state government and sent out to the proponents to actually basically do their report. And that will probably take them upwards of a year. Now it's every chance that they'll just put in a very shoddy EIS, and I don't know that I'm actually speaking out of turn, it does seem that this is the way that things are done, that they don't put in a complete one. We get to submit on that and say this is missing, that's missing, and then they will be told to go and do it again, or at least expand on what they've done. And we may or may not get a chance to submit on that second round.
That's ridiculous.
What they're doing though, you said that they're submitting all their stuff and they've got to try and prove that they're not going to damage certain things or that they're going to mitigate the damage that they're doing. If they're stealthily damaging shit now anyway, and burning off the land and making all the wildlife disappear, doesn't that work in their favour because they can say it's not here? No,
That's
actually the state government should have been contacted about all that.
Right, so there's a state government that had jurisdiction over that, not the council.
So how come
council,
So what are the consequences? They're not being penalised?
Right now they're not being fined. They put in an unpermitted dam. Council does have, it's on their website how much they can actually charge an organisation for not doing the right thing, but they gave them a retrospective permit to build a dam which actually already exists. They are going to have to take that dam down because the compaction is so poor, which is why they lost the face of the dam down the creek. That's our next step. That's what we must actually look for. We must make sure that the local government, the state government and the federal government, I have to say the federal government's not doing their job at the moment, we don't believe.
And Kathy and I went to the meeting of the Mareeba Shire Council when this was on the agenda, and it was purely a rubber stamp. Not even a tap on the hand saying naughty person.
To show what sort of support the council has given, they explain about the land that's been gifted by the roads that are sort of being, the road reserves that have been closed.
Yeah.
I mean, there was, you quoted on there, the hectares of land that got involved.
Yes. Joe, do you remember how many hectares of land that
It was about
50.
22 hectares, I think.
50 acres, yeah.
Yeah, 22 hectares or something.
They've just been given to, not given to me or anybody else, they've given to some developer that doesn't have our interest at heart.
This is what we're up there.
Isabel.
Speak up, Isabel.
Could you please repeat the question?
Ingrid.
We lost a lot of our wildlife because of the cyclone. So the threatened species has listed it. There's 3 main threats to all threatened species. It's land clearing, roads, and domestic predatory animals, which are dogs and cats. This is going to impact on all of them. And as a community for Mission Beach, I'm relying on people like you to get connectivity because our wildlife is being destroyed so quickly in Mission Beach. We've lost 12 passeries this year alone to domestic dogs alone. And if your population is 2,000 people and you've all got 2 dogs and 2 cats, whether you're a responsible or irresponsible person with dog ownership, then it goes up to 4,000 people. That's a potential of 8,000 dogs alone. Okay, that can impact on any wild animals and cats. So, we need this connectivity to go all the way from the Mission Beach right away to Rock Sainsbury.
Thanks, Ingrid.
We've got a lady over here who's had a hand up several times.
Yes, at the beginning of the meeting, you listed the whole pile of apologies from officials and councillors that couldn't come. Are there any officials here tonight, government representatives, council representatives, provincial, state and... No. So I too, like you, read about it in the Cairns paper at the beginning of June. I emailed the council. They wrote back and said, we never had an application. You are best, I have this in writing, you are best to contact the developer. The developer. So I would feel remiss not to express not only my disappointment, but to not have faith in a council that cannot be bothered to go and investigate all of these inquiries that have been sent. I have lost faith in a council that cannot be here present tonight to address the... So they're gonna give some money to the council, good on them, you know? They can afford to do this. But the fact that we are being ignored down here, not being consulted, and even when you bring something to this attention,